Okay.
All right, you're listening to Show Talk with Angela. Today we have on Mr. Tommy Garcia. Mr. Tommy Garcia is the son of Father Divine and Mother Divine. Father Divine was a multi-millionaire when he lived in the when he lived. He housed and fed a lot of property, a lot of hotels, and millions and millions of dollars. How are you doing, Mr. Tommy Garcia?
Peace, Angela. Peace, everyone. I'm doing fine. I think we'll start off where we left off, unless you have a couple questions for me before that.
Yes, I do. Tell us about your
Okay.
experience being adopted by Father Divine, and what age were you?
I was 8 years of age when he adopted me. It was after I had a little fight in school, and one of the students questioned who my father was and why my name was Garcia in a place where they knew nothing about Latins. Father Divine that evening told me that he was my father, not my spiritual father, and that he was going to start adopting procedures for me immediately. That night, after banquet, Miss St. Mary Bloom, who was his right-hand person and treasurer of the Peace Mission Movement, said, "Father has instructed me to start adopted procedures on you immediately." Right after that, I think I had said that one of Father Divine's codes was no giving of gifts, presents, tips, or bribes. But Father Divine did buy me a brand new wheel horse tractor to get around the big estate, to let me go down to the lakes to do my fishing for trout. But I would have to do my chores and cut grass with it also. When you're in the Peace Mission Movement, you're not allowed to go to movie theaters, restaurants, or anything outside of the movement. But he decided to have three of the brothers who had Harley Davidsons take me to the 1964 World's Fair a couple years after I was adopted. And Happy Love with his Harley and a couple other brothers took me to the World's Fair up in New York, and it was the most fascinating thing I had ever seen in my life. That was something that nobody else in the movement could do, and I think it drew jealousy from the people that weren't the followers, but the people that were higher up within the movement. But go ahead with your next question.
How did you feel about being separated from your biological family?
It was a mixed reaction. Didn't understand why it was happening, but I did know that my father was beating me. But the only time my father would beat me is when he was drunk. And he said he was beating me into a man as his father had done to him and as the father had done to his father. So it was generations of this that they thought would make an individual a man by beating him into a man. My mother, I had the greatest relationship with my biological mom. There was nothing wrong ever. She never scolded me. I never did anything wrong. My little sister was just amazing. She was 3 years old, but at 2 years old, she went, they were doing a barbecue, and she grabbed one of the hot skewers out of the barbecue and ran it across my chin of my face and left me a scar for about the next 8 years. And, you know, when she got older, I retaliated with her, and I had a bow and arrow with a rubber tip on the other, and I shot her right in the forehead for her. And I said, "Remember this is for when you scarred me." Well, my father beat me for that one real good. I never knew, you know, it's one thing I think if you're abandoned as a child or a baby, like my sister was, but when you're abandoned at 8 years old, you start wondering, what the heck did I do so bad that my parents didn't want me anymore? And as I looked through my short life of 8 years, I thought there was nothing I did wrong. So my relationship with my biological mom was never good. She joined the Peace Mission Movement. I didn't see her for 2 years. When I finally saw her, Father and I were walking in with an entourage of the other higher-ups, and we went into the 41st Street Mission. And there was my mom right there. And I looked at her, and I said peace to her, and she ignored me like I didn't exist. I never understood that forever. And I went straight to Father. I said, "Father, I don't understand. We talk about peace, love, and helping one another in this relationship within the movement. And Miss Harmony Faith Love, who had now changed her name from Georgia Costa Garcia, Miss Harmony Faith Love didn't even pay attention to me or say peace to me." So I guess he had someone go and talk to her. And that day she came up to me and said peace. That was about it. So my relationship with my family has never been the same. My sister went to live with 3 other or 4 other girls in one of their other buildings that they had for children, and they were raised by a woman there. And these girls got my sister to go against me, saying, "Oh, look at your brother, Tommy. He lives up in Father Divine. He thinks he's all that. He lives on the estate." And being that they were the only ones close to her and I could never see her again, she started believing everything he said. So they pitted me against my sister against me. So my family relationship after that would never be the same. Later on in life, when I left the Peace Mission movement and I got together with my father, he had never changed. He was that same person. But I was only 15 and a half, and I thought to myself, God, when I'm 18, I'm out of here, and I'm never coming back here again.
Okay. After being adopted, how were you treated by the new people around you?
Around by the followers, I was treated wonderful. By a couple of the higher-ups who never understood why I was there or did understand why I was there, there was a rivalry between us. And how do you have a rivalry when you're 8 years old and they're in their 40s and 50s? It's real difficult. So I would be looking over at the table, at the banquet table, and I would look at this one sister look at me, and she's always so mean and had a scorned face every time she looked at me. And so finally I asked Father, I want to talk to him during the banquet. And he waved me to come down to him, and I said, "Hey, peace, Father." "Peace, Tommy, what's going on?" And I said to him, "You know that one sister over there?" And he started looking. I said, "No, don't look at her. Still, no, I'm talking about her." So he goes, "Okay." And I said, "How come she always looks at me so mean?" I said, "I haven't done anything wrong to her. You picked me to be here and sit beside you. Why does she look at me like that?" And he goes, "Well, Tommy, I think she has her own issues, but you know what? I'll discuss this with her." Then from then on, at the banquets, everything went fine. I didn't have the same problem, except what these chairs were at the banquet table were these huge chairs. And they were brought over from England. And I got lost in these chairs. And I looked at Father's chair, and Father Divine's chair had arms on it where he could rest his arms. And I said, "Father, can I get a chair like yours? Because the chair is up close to you. Nobody has that. But there's a brother sitting in a chair 7 seats down, and he's got those arms on those chairs. I bet you he'd love to come up here and sit up here by you if you would let me take his chair. But I could put my arms in there, and I don't feel like I'm going to get lost." He goes, "Absolutely." Next thing you know, boom, 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 he switches the chairs. The one brother thought, "Oh my God, I'm going higher up in life now in the movement. I'm being moved closer to Father," and I got his chairs with arms on it now. That's the way that my relationship was with Father. Everybody treated him like God, but I spoke to him just like he was just a normal person, my father, and I was just honest with him, whatever I wanted to say. And if he thought it was okay, what I was asking for, then he would indulge me. So the people that were the followers, I'm talking about the ones who worked the orchards or worked the fields and picking the groceries, the lettuce and picking the bell peppers, and I'd go down there and help them, and and let me see what you're doing. "Oh, no, Master Tommy, you don't have to do that." I said, "I want to do it. Show me what you're doing so I can learn." They taught me what they were doing. There was one brother named Mr. Determination. He was about 65 years old, and one time I saw him toiling on the soil, and I said, "Mr. Determination, why don't you come down with me to the tennis courts? Let's play some tennis." "I don't even play tennis with you." He goes, "Oh, Master Tommy, I can't do that." I said, "Come on, Mr. Determination, come down with me." And I got him off of his knees, and he came down there, and he would hit the ball with me on the tennis courts. So my relationship with those followers was wonderful. The only time I had issues with was some of the higher ups within the movement, or some of the secretaries that thought they were something special, which they probably were in their own mind. That's where I had it. But everything else, it was wonderful.
Okay. Did you attend private or public school, or did you experience homeschooling from a tutor?
No, Father Divine wanted me to have a normal life as much as possible within the movement. So he sent me to Gladwin Elementary School. Yes, there were girls there, but I learned, you're not supposed to be around the girls. So I stayed around the girls. I was allowed to invite some of my boys, some of my friends from school, the guys over to swim over on the swimming pool. They go fishing with me at the lakes in wintertime. We would skate on them. And that was really is the extent of where that could go. I couldn't go to their homes or go to the movies with them or go to any place else with them like that. But it was a strained relationship that I had, but that's just the way it was, and I accepted it for what it was. In school, they had a dance contest, and everybody had to pick a girl to dance with. And I guess my teacher finally learned, Miss Judy, that I couldn't be around girls, so she asked if she could be my partner in the dance contest. She was my English teacher, and we actually won the competition.
Oh, okay. All right. What was a typical day like for you as a teen?
As a teen, maybe let me go back to 8 years old before I was a teen. So I would go down, I would fish on the lakes, I would do my chores by cutting grass, I would practice on the estate playing soccer because I was on the soccer team when I was in elementary, not preschool, in preschool, 8 years old and stuff like that, elementary. And so it was like the normal life of a child, except all the followers had to have one TV that they looked at, and the shows had to be rated whether you could look at the show or not. Father Divine let me have my own TV in my own room, and I was probably the only follower in the Peace Mission movement out of thousands that had their own TV in the room. But I had to let them know what shows I wanted to watch. And so if the show was a good show and they didn't think it had anything bad in the show or negative or violent in the show, they would let me watch these shows. So my typical days really was just being on the estate. Behind my room was these peacocks. And every morning they would shout out, and our roosters, and they'd be calling out. But remember, peacocks couldn't be called peacocks on the estate. They were called peafowls. So beside never using the word hello again, I could never use the word hello because it had the connotation of hell in it. It was peace. Peace to everyone. Peace, peace, peace. Gifts were not gifts. They were blessings. And peacocks weren't peacocks. They were peafowls. And crackers that you have at dinner, like saltines, they weren't called crackers. They were called soda biscuits because of the connotation of the word crackers. So this is my relationship to then. As I got older and became a teen, then Happy Lev taught me how to drive his Harley Davidson. He had a 3-wheel. They let me have a go-kart on the estate, which I was running all around. I would start driving bigger tractors as they taught me how to drive them. But nothing ever really changed in the estate, like from 8 years old to a teen, because I really didn't know what the outside world was about. When you're in a movement like that, they're like invisible walls that are there beside the walls that are natural brick walls or stone walls, and you don't know what the outside world really is. I didn't know really what rock and roll was or anything like that until Mother Divine, when Father Divine died, sent me to boarding school, an all-boys boarding school in Paoli, Pennsylvania. And she says, I'm going to keep him away from girls now, so he's not going to have any problems. But I don't think really that was the reason she sent me. But my second year there, I met a girl in Paoli, Pennsylvania. She was older than me. And I told her that I played tennis at this school I was going to, and if she'd like to come over one day and come over. And she said, sure, I'll come over there on a Sunday. And we started playing tennis together. Next thing you know, I had my first kiss with this girl. And I thought to myself, oh, my God, everything they told me that was wrong with girls is absolutely wrong. And I realized that Mother Divine, after Father Divine had died, had changed all the movement and kicked out all the followers that I loved. And I realized this was my time to leave.
This is your time to leave. Okay.
Yeah, what I did actually, I contacted my father from a White Pages phone book, but I didn't have enough money to hire a private detective to find my father. And the private detective said, look in that white phone book for Los Angeles. The library will have it there. And see if you find your father's name in there. See if you find his address. I found his name, found his address, called him up. I said, "Hey, Pop, it's Tommy." And he goes, "Who?" I said, "This is Tommy, your son." "No, I don't have a son anymore. My son's gone. He's left years ago." I said, "Pop, this is me." And he goes, "Prove it to me." I said, "Do you remember fishing off the rocks at Redondo Beach?" And he goes, "Yes." Oh, he goes, "Oh my God." And he goes, "I've been looking for you all these years, but they scared me from coming to try to reach you." Do I know if that was the truth? I don't know. But I said, "You have a ticket for me with American Airlines ready for me. I'm going to leave here tomorrow. I'll be at the airport, and please pick me up at the airport in Los Angeles." That night, or I say that evening, during when all of the students eat, it's 150 students in school, everybody knew I was going to make my run for it. And so everybody started saving bread and pieces of stuff where I could make sandwiches. I'd seen in movies where they took a stick to hobos and they put it into a handkerchief and put the other stick and they carried it on. And I thought, and everybody said, "Tommy, you're going to run to the railroad tracks that go behind the school. And when you see that train coming, you're going to see that light on the front of it. You start running before the train ever gets to you, so that when you're running at full speed, you just have to jump on the back of that train." That night, I lived in the second floor of a cottage. I pulled my little bag of my sandwiches, right, and it was under my bed. And I took and tied the sheets to my bed, and all my other fellow guys that were in the cottage with me sat on the bed so it wouldn't come out the window. And I shimmied down these sheets that I had done. And like in the movies, like a hobo with a stick, I grabbed my sandwiches and my stick, and I ran toward the tracks. I saw the train come, and I jumped on the back of the train, and bam, I was gone. And so I'm on the caboose end of it, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to get off at my first stop, just in case something happens. I got enough money to take a taxi to the airport now. And I got off at that stop, and one of the students in the school snitched on me. And there was Happy Love waiting for me at that first depot. And he took me back to Woodmont's. And that's where Mother Divine and I had a confrontation, and I said, "You destroyed the peace mission movement. You didn't do anything Father Divine said you were supposed to do. Everything has changed. I'm gone." And she says, "Well, Tommy, you leave with the clothes on your back, but Woodmont still will always be your home." And next thing I know, Happy takes me to the airport, jumped on a plane, and then I meet my father at the airport.
Okay. You lived in a mansion. We already answered most of the question. You lived in a mansion. Do you know how many rooms the mansion was in? How many rooms the mansion had?
32 rooms in the mansion. I never went to any of the rooms, but upstairs, you're not allowed to go upstairs in the mansion because that's where all the secretaries and the women lived. Where I loved being in the mansion is only three places: Father Divine's office, the banquet room, and downstairs in the kitchens where all the women were cooking all the food. That's where I want to be. And I taste everything they were doing, and just that's where my fun was being in there, really, out of that whole mansion and everything like that. The rest of it meant nothing to me.
Okay. Once you completed school, tell us what you did.
After I got out of Church Farm School, which was the boarding school they sent me to, I went out to California, got with my father, and he sent me to a local boarding school that was all Latino. And I didn't even know how to speak Spanish. I had flunked Spanish when I took it in boarding school. My last name's Garcia. And for some reason, I didn't know that my mother was really Greek. I thought she was German, because somebody said she was German. So my Spanish teacher was also my coach, said, "Tommy, you need to take another language, because I know your name's Garcia, but you can't speak a word of Spanish." He goes, I said, "Well, I'll take German then." And so for the next 2 years, I started taking German and started speaking fluent German. Until I went back to the movement one day and I said, they said, "Tommy, why are you speaking German? And why are you testing?" I said, "Because I heard Miss Harmony Faith Love was German." They go, "No, she wasn't. She was Greek." I go, "Holy mackerel. I just learned German for 2 years." But that was pretty much it. So while I was at this elementary Latin school, I was getting into fights all the time because I didn't act like the local Latinos that were there. They were all in gangs, and I wasn't going to get into one of those gangs. So I met 5 surfers there. The only 5 white guys that were in that school that were surfers, and I hung with them, and we decided we were real good friends, and we started surfing together, and they taught me how to surf, and that was wonderful. When I was only there for half a semester, my dad says, now I'm going to send you to Belmont, which was another Latino school, and that was worse with gangs. I said, you know what? I'm not going there. If you send me there, Pop, I'm going to go back to Woodmont. I'll go back to the estate because I'm never going to go there. And he goes, well, where do you want to go? I said, I want to go right down the street from your shop is on Melrose. I want to go to Fairfax. I want to go where all the Jewish kids go. That's where I want to go. And he goes, really? I said, why are you going to go there? Because I said, you're going to put a apartment above your shop. And if anybody asks you, you tell them that's where I live. That's my apartment. And he says, okay. So now I started to go to Fairfax. And when I went to Fairfax, I went with the Jacksons, the Jermaine Jackson and one of the other brothers. And so after school, they would, go ahead.
The Jackson's brother?
Yeah, the Jackson. Yeah, Jackson 5. So I was going with a girl named Wendy. I won't say her last name, but Wendy, her stepmother was Valerie Harper, who did the Rhoda show, Mary Tyler Moore. And they knew that she lived down on Melrose about 3 or 4 miles away from the school. So they'd see me walking down the street, and the Jackson, the whole family, they'd be in a van all the time, but they pick everybody up from school, and they say, hey, Tommy, you need a ride down to Wendy's? I said, sure. And so they'd give me a ride down there every single time they saw me going down the street down there. So, yeah, they were.
Did you ever meet Michael Jackson?
No, never met Michael, but I met Jermaine and the other one. I can't remember what his name was. They all went to different schools. They didn't like to all go to one school. But one of them went to Fairfax, and that was Jermaine, and that's the one they would pick me up and know. And I think Michael was in the back, but I didn't. Michael Jackson, to me in those days, it wasn't like the Jackson 5, and I didn't think of it in that time, and that was 1970.
Okay. All right. How close of a relationship did you have with Father Divine?
My relationship with Father Divine was unlike anyone else had. Number one, Father Divine never picked anyone to come and join the Peace Mission movement. He never proselytized about the movement. Mother Divine, his second wife, was a Canadian Caucasian, and she asked Father Divine to marry her. Father Divine never asked her to marry him. And they got married. So I am really one of the only ones out of the maybe 1 million followers that Father Divine had that he actually picked. And with Miss St. Mary Bloom and Miss Dorothy Darling, I won't say it was a conspiracy, but they did whatever they could to get me to Woodmont and then protect me from anybody from the outside world, even my father or anybody to ever contact me. I know nothing about my mother's family. They're of Greek descent. They lived in New Hampshire, and they didn't believe anything that was happening to our family was really happening. So I have never met them for, oh my God, all these years, 60-something years, 65 years, I've never met them. I don't even know who they are. I just know that they were very rude people. So my relationship with Father Divine was the most wonderful relationship in the world. I never looked at him as God. I talked to him as a father. When I talked to him normally. I just remember never putting any expletives in anything that I ever said when I ever spoke to him. Sometimes sometimes if I had a problem, like one time this one person named, I can talk to him, he's dead now. His name was David Giles. And he had his carpentry shop below where Miss St. Mary Bloom, the treasure of the movement, had her office upstairs. So one time I was walking in there with Happy Love, and I'm going to use an expletive now, and I started walking up there with Happy, and all of a sudden I hear him screaming at me, "We don't know why you're here. You don't even believe Father Divine is God. Who the heck do you think you are being here?" And I walked and looked at Happy Love, and I go, "Do you believe that shit?" Happy Love says, "Don't, Tommy, don't talk like that." And then I went upstairs to meet Miss St. Mary Bloom, who had a suitcase filled with $100,000 cash. And she asked me to go with Happy Love and deliver it to a garage they were going to buy. It used to be an old fire station, and they wanted to use this old fire station as a garage for their cars in downtown Philly. So I went with Happy Love, and I delivered that money. They had enough faith in me to be able to do that. And so my relationship with Father Divine was I am his legacy. They built a museum on the estate to try to make it like he was his legacy, and they let people from the outside world come in on Sundays to view it. And you have to dress a certain way, you have to act a certain way, you just can't be normal when you walk in. That's wrong. Father Divine's legacy was to help everyone, the less fortunate, be a voice for those that have no voice, and take care of the elderly. That was his legacy. But nobody there, not even Mother Divine, ever did that. So everything between Father and I was great. It was just like a great father and son relationship. He took care of me. I took care of him until he died. And when he died, the whole world changed.
Okay. All right. What's it like living with Mother Divine?
Very difficult. She was an alpha woman. She thought she was the queen. I mean, like the Queen of England. She thought she was the queen. If you were older in the movement and you didn't look up at her and pay her respect when she walked by, she'd have you admonished. She didn't like people of color. She didn't like elderly people. She was really a piece of work. My relationship with her, if she wanted to give me a kiss, she couldn't. And so she would tell one of the waitresses to give me a kiss on the cheek or on the forehead, and they'd say, this was from Mother because you know she can't do it. There's parts of her that nobody knows, and part of it is, yes, they say no undue mixing of the sexes. Mother Divine had a black woman roommate who was her bedmate. They had slept in the same bed. Father Divine wanted to make sure he kept his wife in chastity, that she wouldn't be out doing anything or with anybody else. But what ends up happening when you take a movement and you segregate people within the movement and you put women on one side that can't be with men and you put men on the other side that can't be with women, you know what happens. Okay. You can't stop people from having sex. And that's exactly what happens. And Mother Divine also, I know for a fact, was having relationships with a younger girl within the movement who was like 19 years old at the time. And so I'd always think about all the time she said, oh, no, I got to send you to boarding school. You have to stay around, you stay away from women. And I thought, well, either you want me to be a eunuch or you want me to be a monk or you want me to be gay. Well, what is it that you want from me? That's something she could never answer. So my relationship with her was very torn. But after I left Woodmont and realized what my father was still, I went back to Woodmont every single year till 1990. So from 1968 to 1990, went back every year, sent Mother flowers every Mother's Day. For the anniversary of the Lamb and the Bride, which is her anniversary with Father Divine, I'd send flowers. We'd make phone calls and everything was just the way it was. And she said, one day, Tommy, you'll come back here and you'll run the Peace Mission movement. I said, well, I can't run it when you're there because we have two different opinions on the way the Peace Mission should be run. And she says, well, then when I pass away, you come back and you take over. She passed away in 2017. I was made administrator of her estate and of the whole Peace Mission movement, and that was taken away from me by 4 of the helpers there. One of them was a landscaper, and that person was someone who met Father Divine in 1958, the same year that Jim Jones had come over to try to take over Father Divine's Peace Mission movement. And Father did not trust this person. Upon Father Divine's death, the first person that Mother Divine called was this individual. And he came riding onto Woodmont Estate in a Honda. It's called a Honda Goldwing. The motorcycle was actually gold in color. He looked like something like a knight in white shining armor and all that. But what he was the devil in disguise. And between him and Mother Divine, they kicked every single member of the Peace Mission movement out of the movement. And as they emptied out the hotels, they started selling the hotels. This law firm that went against me and protected these people pro bono in 2017 is the same law firm that taught Mother Divine and this individual how to sell off all the properties without any of the followers getting any of the money that were on the deeds. And the way they did it, it was called a guarantee of ownership. And if they could guarantee the ownership of it and no father would ever step place to say, hey, wait a minute, where's my cut? They could sell the hotel. And that's how they systematically sold every one of the properties, basically, that was on the East Coast. So
they had a
relationship, yeah. So my relationship with her was very torn because what she did is she took the peace mission movement and destroyed it. Now, was the peace mission a cult or was it a religion? Many think that Father Divine was a cult leader, but most cult leaders that you hear about do things that are bad. Father Divine was a precursor to Martin Luther King. He taught people of color how to raise their levels of life, how to buy farms, pulling their money together, how to create cooperatives and buying properties, putting their names on the deeds. He wanted them to have a share of everything and raise their levels of life incredibly to the point of by 1935, after the stock market crashed in 1929, Father Divine was a multi-millionaire. How is that possible? The wealthiest black man in America. And here he is helping everybody else around him get to that higher level also. Mother Divine, his wife, the Caucasian wife, he had a first wife, Penaniah, right? But she had passed away. And supposedly Mother Divine was the reincarnation of Penaniah. But that didn't work out with a lot of the followers. So my relationship with Mother Divine was always very, very torn. Until 2005, when one of my friends, the Rat Pack, went onto the Woodmont, and he wanted to take one of his friends to go and see the estate. And while he was on the estate, he asked if he could speak to Mother Divine. And they said, well, who are you? And he goes, my name's Kenny Coral. I'm Tommy's best friend. And they said, oh, well, we'll go ask her, but she doesn't usually come down to see anybody. Well, Kenny said he saw Mother Divine running out of the mansion onto the front lawn, screaming my name, Tommy. And I guess Mother at that time was going through dementia. And she said, Tommy, Tommy, Tommy. And finally got down to Kenny. And Kenny goes, no, I'm not Tommy. I'm Kenny. Remember me, Kenny Coral? I said, yeah, I used to always play with Tommy. She goes, oh, Kenny. Yes, I do remember you. Where's Tommy? And he said, well, I think he's in California. He goes, oh, tell him to call me. Please tell him to call me right away. I want to talk to him. Boy, Kenny went right back home, told me to call her. I called Mother Divine. We had the best conversation for 2 hours on the phone. She wasn't that same mean alpha woman that wanted to destroy things. She felt like she was alone and that nobody would let her out of her room anymore. And everybody was making her decisions for her. And I said, if you want me to, Mother, I'll come right back now and I'll take care of you with my wife. We'll live on Woodmont and we'll take care of you till the very end. She goes, no, Tommy, I don't think you should. It makes me very nervous. I'm scared for your safety if you do. If you come back here, something may happen to you, and I don't want anything to happen to you. But when I do pass away, I want you to come back and take over and do everything that Father Divine had taught you. I said, great, that's what I'll do. That next day, I sent flowers to her, and those flowers, for the first time in my life, had been returned to me. And my buddy who owned the flower shop said that these were denied by those followers around Mother Divine. They said these flowers aren't wanted here. At that time, the help around her took over her life. I'm talking about the help. A landscaper, a mechanic, a florist, and a caregiver took over the Peace Mission movement and everything around Mother Divine until the day she died. And they're the ones that now, the one individual that Father Divine didn't like in the days of Jim Jones when he was coming over there, is now the head of the Peace Mission movement. You see, Father Divine had enough foresight to look 60 years into the future and know exactly who was going to do what. I'm going to end this part with this. I never knew until the year 2009, until I met a researcher online. She contacted me and told me she was working for San Diego State University about the Jonestown incident, where all the people committed suicide because of Jim Jones and what he had done after he left Father Divine and realized he could not take over. The reason Father Divine needed a boy was because he had to thwart off the attempt of Jim Jones telling everybody that he was his successor and he was the reincarnation of Father Divine before he died. That's the reason Father Divine picked me. Father Divine, at one time in the early 30s, believed in the Americas, United States, Canada, and Mexico. He called it all the Americas, and each country should protect themselves, and everybody mingle between the three countries. And that's why he picked a white Canadian wife. When she wanted to marry him, he said, fine, that'll go with that. And he went with a Latino boy that would represent Mexico for him. And so my color being tan, not black nor white, I would be the progeny, possible progeny of a black and white couple getting together and having a son.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I think pretty much we've got through everything because we've known now when Father Divine passed away what happened. But I would like to end with Father Divine saying something through me voicing my opinion now. It's very, very important for people of color. I'm talking every color, even white, to do not believe in what the Republican Party is trying to do right now is divide us as a country. And both Latinos and African Americans have to join together and create a force of 100 million people that can vote and change what's trying to happen. Nothing has much changed from the days of lynching. They're still killing black men left and right and black women left and right now. And they keep us divided as though the Hispanics and the blacks aren't supposed to be together. That's wrong. I think some individual, a Republican not too long ago, said we don't want our blood tainted. Well, want our blood tainted. So in other words, the word MAGNA, which is make America great again, isn't really that. What it means is make America white again. And that's something we cannot let happen. People have to know about Black history and Latino history, Asian history, Native American history. Know all the truth, and then you make the decisions of what you want to do. But you have to learn the truth. It's up to all of us now to step up to the plate. So we need religious leaders on all the fronts really to start this. Get together, bring congregations together, and have discussions and learn each other's culture to stop this, what's going on right now, this hatred in our country. It's almost like America gone wild right now. The way we kill each other every day, this is not right. A country divided is a country ready to be taken over and conquered. Is that going to be conquered by the Republican Party or by another country that we're given to? This is all up for discussion, and I'm just giving my opinion on it of what I believe. But this is Father Divine talking to me as if he was here right now. He would be telling everybody exactly what I am saying. I think I'd like to close this out, unless you have another question.
Thank you, Mr. Tommy Garcia, the son of Father Divine and Mother Divine. Thank you for coming on Show Talk with Angela Butler.
Peace out, Angela, and peace out, everybody. And everybody, for every wish that you want to happen in the new year, let every wish happen for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tommy Garcia. All right, everyone, you've been listening to Show Talk with Angela Butler. That was Mr. Tommy Garcia. He's the son of Father Divine. Father Divine was a black man who became a multimillionaire, maybe $10, $15 million, maybe more, in the 1930s and 60s. All right, everyone, thank you for listening to Show Talk with Angela Butler. He fed a lot of people during the Great Depression also, and housed a lot of people.